Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here for our second spoiler video in the Ikoria series. And because of the weird way that Wizards is doing their spoiler season, I'm going to be including cards that are from the upcoming Commander set as well as Ikoria. It's all mixed together, but only new stuff. I'm not going to be covering any kind of reprints they put in the Commander decks because that just feels like unnecessary non-spoiler fun. Now, let us dive in, starting out with Gavi Nest Warden. 1 white, 1 red, 1 blue, and 2 for a 2/5 legendary human shaman. You may pay 0 rather than paying the cycling cost of the first card you cycle each turn. Oh, not too shabby. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur cat creature token. So this is following along in the vein of cards that we saw in Throne of Eldraine. Actually, now that I think about it, Ikoria has a couple of parallels with Throne of Eldraine that you can see they were kind of designed with each other in mind. The whole whenever you draw a second card triggers, and also the humans versus non-humans kind of outlook of it. So this is an interesting concept in that I don't really 100% get the idea of why like you get to cycle for free and what that has to do with being a nest warden. I mean, obviously the second ability where you're creating dinosaur cat creature tokens, sure, those are being hatched from eggs under your care. So I get that, but I don't see how the first ability connects flavorfully. Not that it has to, it's fine. That's just how I feel when I look at this card. Overall, I mean, 5 mana, it's a 2/5. That's all right body-wise. The 5 toughness will keep it around a bit longer. And the fact that it, like, dovetails with cycling, there's a lot of cycling in Magic the Gathering. The artwork is fun, too. You've got Gavi sitting here just kind of tending to her wards there. Gotta keep these weird little dinosaur cats alive. And you can see the remnants of an egg that has just cracked and what I assume is like a big straw kind of nesting area. So you've got 3 different variations. You can see how each one has a different coloration on the skin and everything. Not too shabby. Overall, you know, whatever it says, a mother's love transcends species. So she considers this, I guess, her family. Makes sense for like a shaman. This is a bonder, maybe? You know what I mean? Like we talked about bonders in the previous video, and it would make sense for these bonders to be like, okay, this one, they said that bonders can join up with multiple creatures, so I guess Gavi is like a multi-bonder. I think there's another term for it, but I cannot recall what they call it. Still getting acclimated to the lore here. Next up, we've got Jurina Kudrow. 1 black, 1 white, 1 red, and 1 for a 3/3 human soldier. When Jurina Kudrow enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Other humans you control get +2/+0. So this is an interesting concept here. I mean, there are a number of different cards, I believe, that keep track of when you've casted a commander, but I don't think that this is like a super common ability. It feels fairly rare, and it's interesting to note that it's not something that, it's not like Jurina has to be your commander for you to be able to benefit from this ability. You can just have Jurina in a deck where you have someone else as your commander, and basically just, I'm gonna keep on blinking her back and forth or do some other silly shenanigans and generate a crazy amount of white little human soldier tokens. I do like the fact that it scales as you recast it, right? So you get, well, if you're using it as your commander. That's pretty sweet overall. And the artwork, I enjoy it. You've got her, she's standing here like in some sort of city setting. I like how the spires of some of the houses, they've kind of got a bit of a Ravnican feel to them, but they have these gemstone roofs, and you can see in the background what is probably like a palace or some sort of important governmental building, because they have that gigantic green gemstone, green crystal sticking up out there, and those are used to warn of monster attacks. Although, I mean, I guess how if they're gigantic monsters kind of trundling by, it's like, oh, I couldn't tell from the earth shaking or whatever. I mean, obviously you want warning systems, but it feels like overkill. You can see actually she's got multiple bits of this green crystal. Like some of it is up on the shoulder piece. She's got what looks almost like little blades that are probably ornamental decoration that are part of her leather armor that also would light up with this kind of energy as well. And the flavor text says, strength is what keeps us alive. Compassion is what keeps us human. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, that seems like some standard fare to say in a kind of border on anytime your lands can get destroyed by monsters coming by. So you always have to be on vigil, but also care about people. It's all right. Not super exciting flavor text, but it works. The next legendary creature we're going to talk about, because we're getting all 5 from the commander deck out of the way to start with, we've got Calamax the Stormsire. It's a good name. 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 for a 4/4 legendary elemental dinosaur. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax. And the flavor text says its mood changes with the weather and vice versa. Oh, that's interesting. I actually remember reading in a little bit in the Planeswalker Guide to Ikoria that weather patterns are actually dictated by some of the larger beasts that roam around. So Calamax is literally a Stormsire. It's not used in a poetic sort of like, oh, they come in like a storm. It's like literally this being changes weather conditions. That's pretty cool from a flavor text standpoint. I like also the fact that you get to cast the copy spell if he's tapped. So it's not just automatic. You get a copied spell if he's tapped, which you can, in one way, you can do it just by attacking with him. But you can also use like other ways. If they wanted to make it just attacking, they would say, you know, whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax the Stormsire had attacked, copy that spell sort of scenario. Instead, it's just tapped. So you can use it with other effects that you tap a creature to gain a benefit from, and you'll still be able to use the copying. I do like that. The artwork is pretty interesting. I mean, it's an elemental dinosaur. It is what it says. That looks very much like a dinosaur with lightning traveling down its back. Not too shabby. Not the most exciting stuff we've seen from Ikoria, but still not too shabby at all. The next legendary creature we have is Cathal Aspect Warper. 1 green, 1 black, and 1 white and 2 for a 3/3 legendary nightmare insect. When it enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on any creature you control if a creature card in your graveyard has flying. Repeat this process for first strike, double strike, death touch, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Cathal for each counter put on a creature this way. I love this. Oh my god, that's so much fun! Whenever it comes into play, you get to basically get a copy of all of these abilities that exist in your graveyard, and you get to use counters. In the past, Magic has had creatures that gained the abilities of creatures in the graveyard, but you've never had one that could transfer those abilities permanently to other creatures, thus making the reusability of this creature as a commander that much more enticing. As somebody who loves big, dumb creatures and creatures with tons of abilities, this is right up my alley. This is the kind of commander that I would choose to play with. It's a crazy nightmare insect, and you can see it's like almost like a demonic ladybug where it opens up its like back wing shutters and all these crazy tentacles come whipping out. That's amazing. Honestly, this is really, really cool. I'm down with this. I want this card. I want this in my cube, man. Honestly, that card's awesome. Let's take a look at the 5th commander card we have to take a look at, and that is Otrimi the Ever Playful. And he is 1 blue, 1 green, 1 black, and 3 for a 6/6 Nightmare Beast. He mutates for a blue, a green, a black, and 1. He's got Trample. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, return target creature card with Mutate from your graveyard to your hand. Not too shabby at all, honestly. I mean, a 6/6 Trampler means that you're going to be able to probably get through with that combat damage to get the Mutate creatures back from your graveyard. This seems solid. And being able to mutate that onto another creature, that's all right. I mean, you can give it Trample and the return ability, depending on the power and toughness, may or may not be exciting. But I love the artwork here. This is a Nightmare Beast, but he doesn't really feel like a Nightmare Beast. He's got almost like a weird Dr. Seuss feel to him, but like a little bit evil. He's got that mischievous grin. Like you can see his body curled around this log. This is a mossy log we're looking through. And he's just kind of looking through it at you. Like he's found you and he's like, I'm coming for you, buddy. And he's just looking at you all playfully with that. He's kind of a cute looking demon overall. You know what I mean? He looks like a friendly demon. And the name, the Ever Playful, that's a lot of fun. Honestly, I really dig the flavor of this card a lot. All right, our next card is Bristling Bore. This is definitely not, I mean, you know what, it's got the right name. It is kind of a boar, let's be real. 1 green and 3 for a 4/3. Bristling Bore can't be blocked by more than one creature. It says, flavor text-wise, I can bring down anything in Zagoth, but for some quarry, the ratio of fight to meat is too high. And that's from Master Hunter Cheville. And he's saying the amount of meat you get from this boar makes it not worth hassling with it. It's like, forget it. And by the size of Ikoria standards, maybe it's like, you know, we can hunt things that are bigger and less of a problem. The artwork is pretty straightforward. It's a boar that's got some bristles sticking up out of its back. It's kind of framed by this misty forest behind it. Perfectly serviceable artwork, but let's be real. This is not an exciting Magic card. The only place that this card is going to have any chance of shining at all is if you play with it in a draft and you get to like mutate some other crazy stuff on it where they basically can only block it with one creature, good luck double blocking. So they have to build their own gigantic mutated beast to fight your mutated boar. But overall, this card is pretty lackluster. Not surprising for a little jank bag common, right? Let's move on to something way more exciting. And that is Brokos, Apex of Forever. Forever Brokos. That sounds like a bad curse. So 1 blue, 1 green, 1 black, and 2 for a 6/6 Nightmare Beast Elemental. It's got Mutate, and it mutates for 2 green, a hybrid blue-black, and 2. So we got a 6/6 Trampler. You may cast Brokos, Apex of Forever from your graveyard using its Mutate ability. How funky is that? I mean, first of all, you pay 5 mana, you get a 6/6 Trampler, and then you can just keep bringing it back over and over. Even if you have just some little worthless 1/1 token creature, you can bring this back on him and be like, oh, guess what? Never mind. It's Brokos again. And he just keeps returning. That's fantastic. The lore behind this dude right here is supposedly that he is where all life springs from. He may be the source of all life on Ikoria. He does have a very interesting mystic beast feel to him, right? Like he's in this oddly illuminated forest, kind of like an unearthly glow. You've got little birds and things flying around him. This is a beast that doesn't actually go out and hunt people down, anything like that. It doesn't go out and fight. According to the lore, the idea behind it is that apparently the first human came to try and hunt it, and instead he taught it how to take care of other humans and build a civilization, gave him some gifts. Just, it's an interesting concept. It totally, I don't know, man. There's just something about it. He's got like a back made out of bark and crazy roots growing up that are like antlers. This is an absolutely crazy looking card and very, very cool, man. I 100% would add this guy into my cube, no questions asked. Moving on, we've got Cloud Piercer, 1 red and 4 for a 5/4. It is a dinosaur that mutates for 1 red and 3. It's got reach, and whenever this creature mutates, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So overall, this is not very exciting. Let's be real. This is going to be relegated again. This is going to be another one that's relegated to the realm of draft chaffery. It's just, what are you going to do with this? Why would you really want to play this in any kind of constructed build? Now, in terms of flavor, it's all right. I mean, he's called a Cloud Piercer, and he's all standing up on his hind legs. He's got his head up in the sky, and you can see there are all these birds flying around him. I mean, it's kind of funky to see a red creature with reach with its big old long neck, but I have to admit, like, the card itself is somewhat underwhelming, and outside of draft, completely underwhelming. But I do enjoy the artwork. You can see the little red crystals spread along the rocks here, that flock of birds flying by. That's okay. It's all right. Nothing to write home to your mother about, but still, okay. Let's move on and talk about Drannith Stinger. 1 red and 1 for a 2/2 human wizard. Whenever you cycle another card, Drannith Stinger deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it cycles for 1 mana. The first line of defense and the last person you want to anger. This isn't actually that bad a card, really, what you're getting for 2 mana. The fact that you can fire off damage based on each time you cycle. I mean, we looked at that Hive Tender earlier who can make it so your cycling is free. And this is literally every time you cycle a card, not just the first time you do it in a turn. So depending on what you have to cycle, you can do a fair bit of damage, especially since these, you can just get more copies of them and cycle them to themselves, right? And be like, all right, eat some more damage. This kind of ties back to that old concept of blue and like the prodigal sorcerer, like take 1 point. But this one is a little more specific in that it requires somehow to feed off the energy of magic getting cycled, right? The flavor text is, it's all right. The first line of defense, the last person you want to anger. All right, it's okay. The artwork is actually really nice. I love the positioning here where it's basically like kind of standing on some wall, blasting flame energy out of 2 hands. Like in one hand, coalescing some more energy to like, send off another volley while this fireball is being launched from the other hand. And that building in the background with the green crystal roof looks really nice, honestly. I really, really dig the crystal formation roofs that they do in this set. I am down with that. Now, the next card we're going to talk about is Essence Scatter. This is a card that's been reprinted a number of times in Magic the Gathering. This actually used to originally be called Remove Soul. It's the exact same spell, Remove Soul from Legends, but I think they just decided that that was a little too hardcore, and they wanted to change the idea up and go with, oh, you're not removing the soul from this being, you're just scattering their essence to the aether. And it's like, you're still unmaking everything they are, right? Yeah, but this is more friendly for the kids. So Essence Scatter, 1 blue and 1, instant, counter target creature spell. Flavor text says, I know the nightmares of Indatha seem scary, but when you break them down into their component parts, they're quite beautiful. And that's Nyark Ketria Elementalist. I actually really like that flavor text. That's pretty sweet. I mean, literally talking about the ability to break nightmares down into their component parts, which you can do with Essence Scatter. You can actually see in the artwork, there is quite a nightmarish, Cthulhu-ish looking crazy centipede beast with a bifurcated tail and crazy shadowy arms, these gigantic wings, and red glowing demon eyes. And it is being pulled apart. You can see its energy is being diffused out of it and reincorporated into what looks like a swarm of butterflies. I like that. I like the contrast of something horrific and nightmarish being transmuted into something beautiful. And the blue stands out brilliantly against the like shadowy background. Why am I unsurprised that Seb McKinnon has knocked it out of the park yet again? The man's an absolute beast. In all honesty, his creations are fantastic. His artwork we don't deserve him. That's how good it is. Moving on, we're going to talk about Fully Grown, 1 green and 2. This is an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Put a trample counter on it. Flavor text says, one day I woke up and knew I had nothing left to teach her. So now I ride on her shoulders and follow where she leads. And that's from Gustin, the Wild Bonder. We talked about this before, the Bonders who connect with their animals. And you can actually see the Bonder standing on the side. Like in the artwork, you can see this gigantic beast's head roaring. And the beast has there's 4 massive horns jutting out, right? Like, well, I guess horns and antlers, however you want to look at it. Either way, you can see the Bonder is standing there on one of the beast horns, and wreathing around his head, he has a set of antlers as well to mimic the beast that he's bonded with. I like the whole like head popping up out of the canopy, like this was a beast. If the beast was huge enough beforehand those trees would all be brushed aside and broken as it passed. But this instead is like a popping up sort of thing, where you end up with, boom, look at me, I'm gigantic all of a sudden. And you can see the birds that were spooked by that all flying around. All that's a really cool effect. I enjoy that. The fact that it's called fully grown is like, you're only making it fully grown for a moment and then it shrinks back down. So that is admittedly a bit weird. And the casting cost, I mean, a lot of plus like bonus bounce, not bounce, sorry, bonus boost beefy style spells will cost you like 2 mana. So you're paying 3 mana and the creature permanently gets trample, but it doesn't permanently gain the size increase. So it's like, I don't know, man. The mana cost, this is another one that feels like it's just going to be whatever. A great trick and draft, but otherwise just completely forgettable. The next card we have here is pretty underwhelming, to be real. I mean, Gloom Pangolin, 1 black and 2 for a 1/5, and it's a Nightmare Pangolin. It's just flavor text. Just says, they say it survives on a purely bioluminescent diet. It's only active during the darkest of Indathan nights, making verification highly challenging. And that's by Gannett Skysail Zoologist. So, I mean, it's just kind of like a National Geographic style, I'm going to collect information about animals, but I can't get these guys because they only eat glow-in-the-dark things at night. And it's like, oh, okay, all right, well, I mean, that flavor text is okay, I guess, but the card itself is meh. I mean, you might want to use this as a basis for some crazy mutation, maybe? I don't know, honestly. It feels weird. This feels like a blue card. You know, it's got like a wall feel to it, like 1/5. That just does not feel, this doesn't feel like a black creature in that regard. The artwork's all right. I mean, you've got the pangolin. He kind of almost looks like he's got like peacock feathers, unless those are eyes all over his back. And he's just standing in front of a red crystal going, yeah, let me stick my tongue in the air. Overall, I mean, it's definitely got a gloomy vibe to the artwork in the background. So, I mean, it lives up to its name. It's a pangolin that lives in the gloom. What more do you want from it, really? Let us just move on, my friends. Grim Dancer is next. 2 black and 1. And can I just say Grim Dancer's a cool name? That sounds great. So, what is it? It's a 3/3 nightmare. It enters the battlefield with your choice of 2 different counters from among Menace, Death Touch, and Lifelink. Whoa. Seriously, that's pretty good for an uncommon, honestly. The flavor text says, most monsters are more frightening when they skitter unseen in the dark. Most. It's like, you're going to be more scared when you see it. The fact that it can have multiple different modes like this is pretty cool. Like, any combination of these 2 abilities is going to feel good on a 3/3 for 3. Menace and Lifelink feels great. Menace and Death Touch feels great. Death Touch and Lifelink feels great. That's really, really solid for the mana. It makes me think of like Vampire Nighthawks and other older cards where you get good value for your 3 mana. Like this feels like a pushed uncommon. And the artwork, I mean, yeah, I could see calling something like that Grim Dancer. Is this in some kind of crazy alley or something? It's got like a messed up skull on top of its face, and its back is a mess of brambles, and it has like a blade arm. It's just it's impossible to be 100% sure what you're looking at. But man, that name, Grim Dancer, super, super flavorful, very evocative, and the card is actually genuinely solid. I wouldn't be surprised to see this make it into some standard action. It feels like it's right on the cusp there. Moving on to the next thing we have, it is the Demon Kraken Garuda Doom of Depths. Doom of Depths, that's a solid name. All right, so it's 2 black or blue hybrid plus 4 to cast. It is a 6/6 legendary Demon Kraken, and it has Companion. Okay, so this is another one of the Companion cards. Your starting deck contains only cards with even converted mana costs. Oh, weird. So you wouldn't have any 1s or 3s or 5. It's different. It's similar in a way to the restriction of the other one where it's 3 or above. Well, I mean, they are different, but still. When Garuda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of the library into the graveyard. Put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control. This is an orderly demon where it's like, I'm going to go ahead and put some creatures out in an orderly fashion, even only, no oddballs. I mean, that's really not too shabby, really. Like, it's not always gonna fire off, right? You're not always gonna get a creature from the top 4, but if there's a creature there, you got a 50-50 chance maybe of it having the right kind of casting cost for you to benefit from it. You could see under good auspices this hooking you up large. The artwork is, it's a Kraken demon, I guess. It's got kind of like exposed flesh the way that a demon would, and like weird demonic ridges on its back. And then it's got the big like turtle shell kind of thing going on, a bunch of tentacles whipping out around there, but the underside of them has more like of a fleshy tone to it. That's all right. I mean, I feel like you're not seeing quite as much. I mean, when you compare, like, all right, look at the size of the mouth and the size of that boat. That would actually be really intimidating from the perspective of the people in the boat. Look at how crazy the waters are as well. It's not like you're wandering around in still waters. That's pretty nuts. This thing just surfaces up and it's like, okay, all right, it's a Kraken, but it's got a demon in there too, so it's really malevolent. No, thank you. Not too bad. That's a cool card. After Garuda, we have the Huntmaster Liger, and a Liger is a combination between a lion and a tiger. 1 white and 3 for a 3/4 cat that mutates for 1 white and 2. Whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. All right, I mean, that feels like it could get pretty silly depending on how many mutations you actually do. You just make this a gigantic beast and give all your other creatures a boost as well. So I guess the idea is this is a Liger that has proven its dominance over these tigers that are following its lead. They are emboldened by it. And again, what's that? What are the blue? Is that blue? Oh, okay, that's blue like magical essence leaking out from amongst the rocks. Pretty cool. I mean, this is a nice little picture into the wildlife of Ikoria. Overall, not too shabby a card. Feels like a card that's going to probably dominate in drafts. And if you're playing a mutation deck outside a draft, maybe it makes the cut. I don't know. We haven't seen enough of the set to really be able to say how good Mutate is. Let us move on to a gigantic green creature. I do love me gigantic green creatures. So, what do we have here? We have Kogla, the Titan Ape. 3 green and 3 for a 7/6. Man, I love what you get for green mana nowadays compared to the old days. So, this is a legendary ape. When Kogla the Titan Ape enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Right on. Whenever it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Pay 1 green and 1, return target human you control to its owner's hand. Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn. What? This thing is awesome. That's so cool, man. Forget the fact, sure, you can return humans and make them indestructible. That's a nice little side thing. But good lord, when it comes out, it's going to wipe out one of your opponent's creatures. And whenever it attacks, whether it's blocked or not, it doesn't matter. You just get to destroy an artifact or enchantment. I'm in love. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think the flavor behind this, it feels fairly evident. Ikoria is the land of giant beasts. This is your King Kong tribute, where instead of being on, like, what is it? The Empire State Building? Is that what? I don't know American monuments very well. So the Empire State Building or whatever, the King Kong, I think, climbs that. Either way, he climbs some big, tall building, and he's got this woman that he's in love with in his hand, right? So you've got the idea of, like, he's running away with a human, and it's making him indestructible or whatever, and he's up there roaring at the airships of man instead of the helicopters and jet fighters and things that would be flying around him in the movie. I think that's a cute little nod to King Kong. I don't like the whole Godzilla thing that's going on, because Godzilla's not my thing. It just feels like weird and jarring to me. But using tribute, like making something that is a reference to something instead, like if this was just called King Kong and he was on an apartment building or something, that would be like, okay, this doesn't feel right to me. But having him on like basically climbing this gigantic green crystal as a proxy for a building and doing that like roaring at the heavens thing, that's fantastic. I really like the flavor of the card. I think it's fun. on top of just being like, oh my god, this is a great green card I can't wait to use. Next card we have to talk about is Labyrinth Raptor. 1 red and 1 black for a 2/2 Nightmare Dinosaur. It's got Menace. Whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature blocking it. Oh, wow, that's cool. And 1 black and 1 red, creatures you control with Menace get +1/+0 till end of turn. Cool, it's like a mini kind of Menace Lord. I like that, and that's gross. That makes blocking Menace creatures so much harder, because you have to have 2 creatures to throw in the way of a Menace, and now it's like you're not going to be able to even add up their power in a way to defeat it. You're going to have 1 creature just bite the bullet, and your other creature's going to have to be big enough to beat the Menace guy on his own. That is pretty cool, honestly. I like this. Pretty solid for 2 mana, too. It's got Menace. Oh, that's gross, dude. That feels like it's got some good potential. So you can see that this is a Nightmare Dinosaur that has burst through some sort of settlements wall. He's all running and snapping up, people running in different directions. I guess the idea is like when you sacrifice a creature, it's being fed to the raptors. So like one person can get away and the other's going to go. But you can see like it's got Menace. So these guys are, I'm out of here. I'm taking off. It's not too shabby. It actually makes it look bigger than 2/2. It also kind of makes it look like a hilarious armored nightmare chicken. Like, I'm gonna get you, it's the chicken monster. But really, I mean, this is a solid card for Menace, 100%. And even just on its own. Next up, we've got Primal Empathy. That's a cool name for a card. 1 blue, 1 green, and 1. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield. Right on. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Oh yeah, dude, that feels super green. I love that. The idea of like, I will have the strongest. And if I don't have the strongest, I will grow stronger and overcome. That's great. Either you get a card draw or you get a +1/+1 counter. I wish that this was actually hybrid green-blue so I could play it in my green deck, but whatever. Either way, really cool card. Flavor text says, from this day forward, we confront this world together, lifting each other up. So I guess this is supposed to be artwork representing the bond between a bonder and one of the wild beasts. And it is kind of a sweet moment, right? You have like the beast that's just looks peaceful with its eyes kind of mostly closed, while the bonder is leaning in with their forehead pressed against the beast. And I like the like aquamarine-ish, tealish colors in the background. I find this card to be visually inviting. I very much enjoy it. And again, the name Primal Empathy is awesome. And the final card we have for today's spoilers, my friend, is Sprite Dragon. 1 red, 1 blue for a 1/1 fairy dragon with flying and haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon. Size of a pixie, rage of a hellkite. This is fun. This is a fun little silly beast. It's just like, check it out. And honestly, this feels like it could also get stupid if you use mutations with it and give it more abilities, right? Like, it just feels like it could get beefy dumb. And the artwork, I like the idea of tiny little fairy dragons. That's something that I know from Dungeons and Dragons. And just like, dragons are supposed to be these gigantic beast lords of the sky. So it's interesting to see them as tiny little things with more delicate wings, right? He's got like the wings of a fairy. This is the kind of dragon that a fairy knight would ride. That's pretty cool. Overall, a funky little card, not too bad. Not too bad of an uncommon at all. This one feels like it's got potential as well. So let me know in the comments which were your favorite cards, because we're done here. Big shout out to all my patrons and channel members. I'll leave a playlist to the whole spoiler thing here at the end for you to enjoy. Thanks for coming by, everybody, and I will see you all very soon for some more Ikoria spoiler action.